Moot.aesthetik here, and I am back with a review of the xZx Cosmetics 420 palette. I am proud of myself that this next review has not taken 3 months, 6 jumps across the moon, and whatever other measure of time to indicate that it has been forever and a day. I lost my grandmother earlier this year. I'm currently in the throes of not so great mental things, but I am here delivering the content that nobody asked for that I still want to provide. So, okay. I have a palette here. Retails for 25 $. It is a palette that I found on an Instagram page that highlights different indie releases that are going on. And I was in the neighborhood to spend more money on makeup that I didn't need to buy necessarily, that I could have put maybe towards a bill. Not that I'm behind on any of my bills or anything, but I could have put towards something else. You know, I could have done some adulting, but I chose not to. I chose to be impulsive. So unless you're a determinist, in which case I didn't make any choice at all. But, well, whatever. It's not philosophy. So, yes. So I have the palette here. This is the xZx Cosmetics palette. It retails for $25. It has 12 shades in it. It comes in this sleeve, which, as you may have seen, is an exact replica of it. So it has the same nice holographic shiny packaging. And this is the back of it, which includes the name of the palette, the ingredients, a list of things that it is formulated without, and a couple of certifications. So off the bat, I give the palette points for including the ingredients directly on the carton itself and not just on the sleeve. That means I don't have to keep the sleeve to know what the formulation was in case things change. If I'm recommending this or not recommending this to people and I go, well, yeah, this is what I have, and the formulation has changed, and I have nothing to compare it to, I'm just assuming it's the same, you know, it isn't what I want. It's not a good look for me. So I am glad that the ingredients are actually listed on the package itself. It gets points for that. So this is a cruelty-free and vegan product. It also says that it is formulated without parabens, mineral oil, phthalates, triclosan, sodium lauryl sulfate, and gluten. It also says that this is supposed to last you for 24 months. Okay, now that we've gotten those details out the way, this is the eyeshadow palette. It does have a mirror, but I don't really want to show all of that because then I'm going to be showing my filthy bathroom. But yes, it does have a mirror. I don't personally find a palette having a mirror or not having a mirror to be a deal breaker. It having a mirror is a nice perk, but it doesn't change my opinion on the palette. But if that is something, I bring it up just for the people who that is a deal breaker for. It is not an uncommon sentiment for people to be upset that it does not have a mirror. All right, and this is the color story. Now, the colors do look a bit lighter, I think, than they actually are, just due to the LED lighting that I have going on. It is a 12-pan eyeshadow palette. It does come with 3 shimmers and 9 mattes. It is a monochromatic color story. It does give you these 2 brown shades here, which I didn't really notice when I purchased it because the spirit of impulsivity blinded me in that moment. But when I purchased it and then I got it and I looked, I was like, those 2 brown shades look identical. Like, what is going on with that? Yeah, they look identical, but on the eye, they swatch, or they wear differently, and they also swatch differently. This is my second time filming, so if you see anything left over, it is from that attempt. So these are the 2 shades here. So you can see the undertone difference. This is warmer. This is more on the neutral side. So in the pan, they look identical, but they are not. So there is that. Now, with this color story, I do like it. It is up my alley. I did think this was more of an olive color story initially when I purchased it, but it is more of a true green. I wish that one Devil's Lettuce, this green here, was a bit deeper of a green, and that this black hot box was a true deep black. I don't know if they thought maybe with this black in there, they really didn't need to make that green that deep. I don't think it looks that deep on camera, but it is the deepest green. Again, in the palette, I'm gonna go ahead and swatch some of the colors, and I do have all of the shades swatched on my arm on my Instagram down below. Gives you a reason to check it out other than I told you so, because what I say is so important. I know, I'm annoying. So there's that. So just, you can see at least the points of impact there. And then let's go ahead and swatch the 3 shimmers that are included in this palette. So you have 2 shimmers that are more green, and then you do get 1 shimmer that is more of a neutral. So combined with the 2 browns in the palette and that black, and then this neutral one, which is CBD, Mary Jane, and Hybrid, you do have a couple options available to you. When it comes to the shimmers, I was not a fan of Hybrid. I do think it's a little kind of gritty, which I'm not a fan of. Overall, the shimmers tend to lean more on the satin side of life. They're not very metallic, very foiled, if that's up your alley. For me, they're not the type of shimmers that I typically go for. All right, so that is the color story. Getting into the pigmentation, I would say that this palette is more of a buildable formula. Given the nature of it being a very powdery formula, you will get some kick up in the pan. I'm not particularly bothered by kick up to a point. There are some palettes where it's just like, am I gonna get any of it on my eye, or is it just gonna all be kick up? I don't really know. But there is some kick up in case you wanted to know that. The nature of powdery formulas, in my experience, tend to be shadows that can be built up, but they just have a dullness to them. So even really built up, I don't think these colors are like zinging. It's not bad. I think, it's very clearly green. You do get that, but I find that I wish that the colors were a bit more saturated. So yeah, that is the thing with the pigmentations. You can get decent color payoff with my Beauty Bay Bright Mattes. That's more of a powdery formula. You can get great color payoff. The colors tend to still be a bit muted. They're not as saturated, not as punchy. I'm a fan of very saturated, intense colors. One of the things that I look for in any eyeshadow palette that I purchase is if I can get the exact color in the pan. Whether or not that's a realistic expectation is a different conversation, but I expect to get the color in the pan. If I cannot get the color in the pan, that is a problem for me. With these shadows, I absolutely get the color in the pan. If you like powdery formulas and you know how to work with them, and you like more of a buildable formula when it comes to pigmentation, this might be for you. On the same vein of them being powdery, they're incredibly blendable. So I will say that is often a perk of a powdery formula, is they blend very well. I did not run into any issues with patchiness. The colors, they did what they needed to do. On the flip side of that, though, what I found is that as I applied the shadows, when they went on initially, it was fine, the pigment was there, but as they blend out, while it does blend, it kind of disappeared. So I found that I had to keep going over the colors over and over and over again to bring them back. I would recommend with this eyeshadow palette tapping on the shadows as opposed to sweeping them, just to get a blend, but also still keep some of that intensity, like trying to get that gradient from the black to, just to let you know what I used, trying to get that gradient from the black here to Devil's Lettuce, and then I went in with OG because I feel like Kush and Devil's Lettuce, they have different undertones, but they're about the same kind of depth, and I didn't think I would get the gradient that I wanted, so I jumped up to something lighter like OG. Again, the colors look a little brighter than I think they actually are on camera just because of my LED lighting, but yes, very blendable, but I do feel like tapping these on will give you the best of both worlds to maintain the pigmentation while also getting some degree of blendability, but that's just me. Who am I? Nobody, we know. So, and again, this is the eyeshadow look. that I did with that. I will include down below a list of all of the products that I used to achieve this look. I think this is a rather simple look. It's not like I have like a really heavy contour, you know what I mean? Usually I like more of a blinding highlight, but again, the neuron just kind of led me down one pathway and I just kind of picked a different highlighter than normal. But I still think I have a glow there, so I am happy with that. Overall, I would say this eyeshadow palette performs in terms of you get what you bought. You do get the colors in the pan, the shadows do blend, the shimmers do show up. Is it a palette that I could see myself reaching for on the daily? No. Is it a palette that I would reach for first if I was in the mood to wear green shadows? No. It's not as saturated in color as I tend to like my shadows to be, and while I like that they are blendable, the pigmentation tends to disappear as it goes on, which is just not the jam for me. So I probably wouldn't reach for it very often. Maybe if I'm just in a mood to kind of get through my different shadows, I'm kind of reading my notes. I also did mention some things earlier about the color story. I do wish that the black in there was more of a true black. Again, I don't know if that's a limitation of the formula being more on the powdery side of things or not, but I wish that black were deeper, especially given that you don't really get any super deep, rich green mattes. And then the two mattes that you do get in there, while the undertones are different, I don't think you needed them both. I probably would have kept maybe one of them and then made the other one a deeper brown. I feel like a lot of palettes are afraid of giving you like a real nice, rich, dark brown. That would have been nice. Or like an olive brown, a deep olive brown. That would have been the move. That would have been the look. That would have been the sensation, the moment, all of that. Yes, like that would have been everything as I overreact to my own excitement. So I hope that gives you an idea of what I thought about this palette. If you have any questions about the palette itself, about this look, or just a request for a different tutorial, different palette to be reviewed, just something about makeup in general, that would be wonderful. I'm still fleshing out how exactly I want to continue with this channel. I do plan to do other reviews, but I kind of want to move it in a different direction. So definitely fire off in the comment section your thoughts on things. And until next time, bye.